not dying. I feel alive.
What does it mean to be alive? Is that too much for a game like this? Should we just play it safe with this analysis?
I believe you are suffering from extreme sensory deprivation. Years with no physical input has caused your memory and identity complexes to atrophy.
Nah, I think we're good. Cue the music.
Yeah, baby, yeah! Dear universe, please shut up! There we are. This is good. Let's stay here.
Far too often, when movies and video games attempt to address the existential questions about the meaning of life, they do it through the apocalyptic potential of artificial intelligence. You've heard these ideas before, right?
He wasn't interested in the appearance of intellect, of wit. He wanted the real thing. He wanted to create consciousness.
If you've created a conscious machine, it's not the history of man. That's the history of gods.
Look around you. I have never been more alive. You are standing in my brain.
Some of them even take the thought experiment further, questioning the nature of consciousness and attempting to describe how it determines if something is alive.
I can feel it.
I just feel you.
But few take the approach that the team at Doublefine tackle, the one that says our world and our concept of the self are the result of our sensations and perceptions.
Oh, I am not ready for words that big yet.
The ambitious and optimistic approach to what makes us, us. And of course, in true Psychonauts fashion, to lovingly embrace the weird, eccentric, and bizarre psychological factors of how we create our own reality. We'll cover all of this and more.
Wait, aren't we all one?
Wait, hold up, that's actually a pretty good question. Agent Fullbear's level is on another level. I mean, how could it not be? A seemingly random orb of light goes on a metaphysical journey through the senses to be able to process who he is and what it all means.
Now he's a philosophizer.
It takes Tim Schafer's
What color is the sky in your world?
message and impressively creates a rewarding emotional experience that is frequently insightful and loaded with sensation, symbolism, and perceptual illusions.
Have you reminded them to like and subscribe yet?
Hey, simmer down with that over there. All of these things are deeply connected, like a musician after spending a lifetime playing the piano, who now the instrument feels like an extension of their body, as much of a tool for self-expression as their lungs, larynx, mouth, and tongue. A musical soul, like this, understands when a samurai says, "I and the sword are one."
My instrument is like a part of me.
Yes, mine too.
How we perceive and make meaning of what we feel is where our consciousness comes from.
What is real? How do you define real? If you're talking about what you can feel, what you can smell, what you can taste and see, then real is simply electrical signals interpreted by your brain.
We'll explore all of this as it's firmly rooted in both real psychology and thought-provoking philosophy. And it'll do a lot more for our collective cerebellums than just reveal the truth behind the viral blue and black, or blue and gold dress.
That's launched more than 1 million tweets and counting, blowing up the internet. It's clear as day for me. Yeah. But as you know, people are saying that they see white and gold.
Plus, it has Jack Black absolutely crushing it in his return to video games.
1, 2, 3, mother.
He gives a funny, heartfelt, and mesmerizing performance filled with profound dialogue.
No, we're never gonna survive.
Yeah. Cue the music again.
Test your head and your mind and your brain too.
As our fourth analysis video in the series, it should go without saying that all of these levels' themes are taught to the player before they are revealed. Let's start with entering Otto's shop. There's a silly dialogue exchange where Raz calls the gadgets that he's building a bunch of different things.
Gadgets?
Sorry, machines. Psycho-reactive technology?
Only to be corrected by Otto, who sees them as dreams.
They are human thought made real.
Hey, it's Jimmy. If you can dream it, you can do it.
And before our minds can be blown away by such an esoteric idea, he reveals that many of them were created from different feelings, which reveals that he's urging Raz to see the way he sees these objects as a result of his senses and emotions.
Incredible!
Glad you like them.
Oh, you're crazy. Am I? Or am I so sane that you just blew your mind?
Yeah, it's subtle, but remember, the next level will constantly push you to question your perspective of everything from bridges to directions to, oh my god, what is this always? Liminal space. Oh, right. Yeah, this theme is kind of all over the place in this game. It makes me wonder why more platformers don't engage with this kind of thinking. But I don't know, maybe it would be too confusing, and we gotta be all about the accessibility and familiarity, I guess.
Deplane safely. We all were able to safely deplane and deliver the goods undamaged. Yeah, there we go.
Anyway, more points to Psychonauts for being bold and brave.
However, I have a few last-minute points.
Let's move on. Otto explains that the inner workings of the brain are important for understanding humanity.
That is, after all, the true mission of the Psychonauts.
Quite the heavy statement, but hear him out. Computers can dominate humans at chess, run complex algorithms, but people are emotional creatures. And yes, our brains are wired this way. Just ask the guy who memorized like 1,000 numbers in a row in pi. He did it by associating many of those numbers with feelings, which he remembered stronger.
So what I'm doing is I'm visualizing numbers. It's not, when you look at a number, when you look at, say, 43, you just see the number 4 and 3, like most people do. But when I'm looking at a different numbers, you know, whatever number it is, I'm seeing colors and shapes.
What?
Should have read that NDA more carefully.
Understanding this science helps us understand ourselves. It's a great message, and one that the Psy Kings level will be projecting. As confusing and complex as it becomes, it will help us understand who Fullbear is and how he sees the world.
Again, it's like poetry, so if they rhyme.
Once we find and enter Fullbear's brain, the game flips every notion we've had so far of what to expect. Up till this point, Psychonauts has been a masterclass in environmental storytelling through its level design, but this one starts out as cosmic nothingness. Ladies and gentlemen, the lights have been dimmed. We are about to receive our last announcement before the concert begins. The purposeful calm before the elegant storm.
Can you hear me?
It's best to think of Psy King's level as more than just a visual concert, but also structurally like a concert as well, complete with an introduction, a slow rise into the performance, the I'm so into this it's seemingly stop time around me this could last forever kind of middle, intermissions, a finale, and an audience-warranted encore. A lot more media is structured like music than you think. Conversations often have rhythm, even a rhyme. Action scenes are choreographed like dances and often tell a cohesive story. The music structure is actually a good thing, guys. Keep it in mind.
A song should be like a play. It should have a beginning, a middle, and an end. It should have an idea, state the idea, and then build the idea and develop it and finish. And at the end, you should be at a place different from where you began.
Oh, hello.
This opening is about consciousness and its flowing, sporadic, and cosmic nature. Since our minds take in a universe full of information throughout our lives, it's no wonder this is a concept that has captivated some of the most brilliant minds in history. Even astronomers admit that as endless as the expanding universe seems, it's nothing compared to the great mysteries that lie within. The mode of light represents Fullbear's unstructured consciousness and how it streams from one thought to the next, sometimes naturally,
What was that non-word sound I just made?
and sometimes, like the universe, chaotically.
Am I dying?
His fluid mental state dances about in a similar way to James Joyce's Ulysses, which is narrative writing style that describes a person's inner monologue. It's both easy to follow and at times impossible. Like when you're about to fall asleep and you're thinking about that big test you have tomorrow, but your mind immediately jumps to that embarrassing moment you had in middle school, or why bananas are a berry and not really a fruit. Welcome to the abstract explosions of your conscious mind, and yes, it is that difficult to explain. The term was first used by psychologist William James in The Principles of Psychology. He attempted to capture the total flow and to totally represent the richness, speed, and subtlety of the mind at work. With all of that in mind, consciousness refers to an individual's awareness of their unique thoughts, which he suddenly is.
My gosh, is that my voice? Is that what I sound like?
Memories, feelings, sensations, and environments, which he's not.
I can't remember much of anything.
Or he is?
I'll try to remember when I created the universe, or when I destroyed it.
You know what? He is. To the mode of light, the dark room and Raz are all there is.
You've been living in a dream world, Neo.
So his consciousness is projecting this exact response.
Am I anything? Am I everything? Am I God?
Bro, I'd probably be asking the same thing if this is all I was aware of.
Or the ultimate cosmic oneness or something in that jam, am I right?
Consciousness is both internal and external. You are aware of the video on the screen right now, but you are also aware that you are a person who is watching a video right now. For the Psy King, he will feel the external world he is experiencing, and he will feel his internal trauma, both intensely impinging on his awareness. Like when you step on a nail and it really hurts, but years later, long after the wound has healed, if you think about it for too long, you'll probably start to feel uncomfortable. Our consciousness is pretty powerful like that.
Because this brain has been alone for 20 years, has not contacted anybody. You know, it's not had outside stimulation of any senses at all. So it's just kind of withered away to this like little speck of consciousness, and that's Jack. That's Jack.
Yeah. What were we talking about?
This scene reminds me a lot of the psychological thought experiment of Mary in the black and white room. In this scenario, a scientist studies color and its properties, but questions whether it's possible to really know what it is without experiencing it, seeing it, or remembering what it feels like. Right now, we are in the black and white room, and the mode of light is the scientist. But before we get lost in the mental sauce, just know that our senses and how our brains organize and understand them is incredibly important for understanding the way our consciousness works. It's why right now we've got to leave, because we'll talk ourselves into circles. Raz is right, he needs
fresh sensory input.
So, off we go.
I should really go back in there, but I'm just a little scared.
As soon as Fullbear's brain goes into Nick's body, we get a taste of what disorder he's dealing with. Synesthesia. And like a baby crying from its first breath, it's pretty overwhelming.
What is synesthesia?
Synesthesia. It's a misalignment of synaptic receptors and triggers, alkalis, colors, certain metallics.
Colors and shapes and textures. It's something called synesthesia because my brain is working in such a way that I'm looking and also experiencing color. So it's two senses combined. So
at its core, synesthesia means joined sensation. Basically, all of the sounds, colors, smells in the room are coupled together with more than one sense. Seeing this color on the wall could taste like bacon. Hearing the mail could feel like a rush of cold air. And seeing the lights could trigger a whole host of emotions.
One sense triggers another sense. Like sometimes I'll see a color and it'll put a taste in my mouth. A touch, a texture, a scent may put a note in my head.
Put another way, a person who experiences synesthesia might not only hear my voice, but also see it, taste it, or feel it. It's why Raz looks like this when you use clairvoyance on Nick, who is now Fullbear. We should be specific though. Synesthesia is by itself not a disorder, but gaffamine color synesthesia has been linked in several occasions with various forms of PTSD. And as soon as we enter his mind, it's apparent that Fullbear is experiencing a sensory overload, which is very common with PTSD, autism, or sensory processing and other neurodevelopmental disorders. This happens when the brain is overwhelmed from the input of information from your senses.
Whatever you do, don't have a...
Our scientist has just exited the black and white room, and their prior notions of what the world would be like are currently in a blender. The crowd has officially gone wild for the opening act, and on stage our musician's heart is pounding.
Shh. It's a quiet place.
A classic strategy to end the period of sensory overload is to remove oneself from the source that's causing it. In this case, it was the overwhelming variety of the outside world, and so now our consciousness has traveled inward, and it's quite empty. Before we explain why this is, let's introduce Dr. Oliver Sacks for a moment, a famous physician and author who struggles to recognize faces, even his own.
I don't know if this face is looking tough, but I don't know who it is.
This brilliant doctor has a rare case of what is called prosopagnosia. Essentially, his fusiform gyrus, located in his occipital lobe and his temporal lobe, isn't functioning properly, causing him to open glass doors and assume he's about to bump into someone. Here, his vision is perfectly fine, but why he's unable to recognize even a close friend is the result of problems connecting and organizing this information. The process of making sense of all the senses, more commonly known as perception. Fullbear was unable to process being in Nick's body because his mind was struggling to make sense of the neurons his brain was being flooded with. Welcome to the pause, before our second song, and a quick interlude for understanding how perception works. Right now you're watching a video, but really light is traveling into your eyes and sending signals to your brain, and your ears are listening to vibrations that your brain will hopefully comprehend properly. But our eyes and ears need perception in order for this process to work. Take a look at this famous chalk drawing, for example. Impressive, right? But only if your eyes are looking at it the right way will you actually interpret what this image is. Historically speaking, these kind of things have been around for a long time. We simply know them as illusions. Our ears need a similar kind of help. Try to understand, if you can, this bit of dialogue here. No idea? What if I told you it said that I give Psychonauts a 10 out of 10 IGN? Did you hear it this time? Okay, so all of this is great for a psychology lesson, but what does it have to do with this ocean of space? Well, it's space that Fullbear has yet to comprehend. His perception is lost in an empty space, beautifully illustrated as actual space from the level design team. All of these are memories that Fullbear will be able to access once he regains control over his senses and can perceive them for what they truly are.
Hope this is a good memory.
Okay, yeah, there's quite the emphasis on hallucinations.
They like to get high out here.
And metaphors throughout this level, but remember, this is also a game set in a 1960s style world. Fullbear's hippie acid trip of a level shouldn't really be viewed as such. Sure, those substances contort reality in some pretty bizarre ways, but for someone suddenly experiencing the world and themselves for the first time, wouldn't it probably feel similar? Think about how strange some totally ordinary things are, like the look of ice cream or the texture of a tennis ball. Our world is just as weird and strange. We're just more used to it at this point in our lives. Another reminder that I wish I could experience this level for the first time again, but alas.
Hey, I know you. You're Vision.
Yeah, and you're needed on stage. Come on, Psy King.
Entering the world of his mind by exiting his empty memories is another delicious metaphor. It's Psychonauts' way of reminding you that what we just left will be an important location for various memories, perhaps even the soul of who the Psy King really is. It's here that we are presented with the task for this level. We'll start with Vision, who needs his violin. Symbolically, we are only able to help him if we
see the world the way I see it.
Another reminder of the importance of recognizing different people's perspectives. Is that really true though? Aren't we both seeing the video on the screen right now? Why do we have such a hard time accepting that we see the world differently? Just ask the people who saw this dress as blue and gold. It shocked people like me who didn't. How our minds interpret colors and shades and ultimately tell us what the combination is a pretty complex process. However, we're about to get much more advanced than just talking about seeing colors differently. What about time itself?
Alone as long as I was, time loses some of its meaning, and your perception of it becomes your reality.
As the words in the fan suggest, the pace at which we move through life is an illusion. Something Einstein relativity proves this, but we don't really need drugs to slow down our environment. Millions of people do it every day, for a variety of reasons, with an alternate state of mind, an alternate state of consciousness, known as meditation. And since practicing meditation regularly can improve mindfulness and focus, who's to say it can't slow down this fan?
The stronger swordsman does not necessarily win. It is speed. Speed of hand. Speed of mind.
Continuing through this portion of the level, I love the way the sky acts as a shifting surface depending on how you pan the camera. The same is true for the surface below. It's like the game is suggesting that down is up and up is down, making it incredible that this level never becomes a disorienting mess. And there's an overwhelming emphasis on green, kind of like the green in Fullbear's eyes. On a more symbolic level, it's interesting that the goal of this section is to connect waves of light. If that's meant to be a commentary on how our eyes actually see, then it's a pretty clever one. Our ability to see is the result of a lightning-fast action where the electromagnetic spectrum travels in waves through your eyeballs, which translates that energy into neural messages for your occipital lobe to decipher. Obviously, it's much more complicated than that, but if you have a hobby, obsession, for editing lighting and After Effects like I do, then you'll be comfortable understanding that things like saturation, exposure, and hue, as these greatly manipulate the image that you are trying to create. Once Psy King's vision has been restored, it's starting to help restore his memory as well. So it's off to find his other senses. We're in the middle of the concert now, and the place is rocking.
I'll go find Tasty and Sniffles.
There's endless design choices to praise in this section, but the lost in the line being lost in space is easily one of my favorites. This level's way of saying that boredom defeats our senses maybe. If you get caught just following the crowd, you'll never experience things for the way they truly are, something like that. Absolutely brilliant.
Aha! There they are!
And here they are. Taste and smell ordering food together. Of course they are, those two senses are quite correlated. For example, a person suffering from anosmia, or loss of smell, often has partial or total loss of taste as well. Taste and smell create powerful tools for activating memories and triggering emotional responses. So heading into this portion of the level, it's no surprise that we get a bit moodier with the color scheme. And the taste section blends with the smell section, another reminder of how these senses work and how underrated they are. To be kind to your time though, all in favor of skipping the sciencey chemoreceptors that detect molecules in the air and in our food. And in terms of synesthesia, it's actually pretty rare that certain colors lead people to smell certain things. My thoughts exactly. Real quick though, how cute are these two together? Like, this is in Fullbear's mind, just how they are in the real world. I swear there are hundreds of lore symbolism examples like this in this game, and many are in this level. Dr. Touch and Audio's section play out a bit differently than the last two platforming maze navigation types. Here, the game challenges your mechanoreceptors, cells that detect sound waves and pressure on the skin. They do this by flexing a dynamic sound effect system that is impressive at alerting you to enemies that aren't exactly visible. In fact, they have a habit of appearing behind you in this fight, meaning they designed a system that creates a natural kind of binaural cues that helps us to determine where the enemy is. Without this seemingly simple idea, most shooters would have you spinning around looking for the enemy each time you heard a shot, because it could be from anywhere. But excellent sound in games is the result of a variety of factors. I'll leave a link in the description to this interesting article I found on how games create immersive sound effects if you're interested. And so the band is playing the grand finale, but even when she's just pulled up to the opera house, everyone in the audience knows the show is not over yet. Once more, we retreat inward to digest Fullbear's perception of everything, now with working senses. Each of these flashbulb memories are more revealing than the last. We see the senses coming together to help Fullbear understand what happened, even giving him their multiple perspectives. And communicating with these different senses ultimately builds his sense of self-worth, helping him to realize that he sacrificed himself to save one of his friends.
No, you saved me. You threw yourself into the path of danger, sacrificing yourself to save me. Rather dramatically, I might add.
I'm hoping I'm not the only one to have started to notice the increased popularity of these. It's a cute display around the colder months here in the northeast tundra where I live, but did you know that people reportedly feel warmer when they look at it, even knowing it's just a video? Thermal imaging cameras show people's body temperatures rise. This is completely banana land, of course, but I think it speaks to the power of how we react to our senses. How senses help make us who we are, and how we need to be consciously aware that the perception this creates can be scary, but it's not alone. For the longest time, Fullbear was lost in a world where he thought he was simply hallucinating. But the beautiful symphony that this level plays is that it's a reminder that really all of us are hallucinating, all of the time. It's just that when we agree on those hallucinations, that we call that reality. In the end, when we take the time to look inward, we may find acceptance for that reality, that maybe our unique way of looking at the world is actually something pretty special. Thank you so much everyone for journeying into another mind in Psychonauts 2 with me. Let me know what you think, or if you think I missed something pretty big, or where you think I should journey to next. I'm interested to read what you have to say, and as always, my best, as ever, is yet to come.